don't believe the cross, you're not my brother. You don't believe in holiness, you're not my brother.
Did she know this was part of the job description to deal with full frontal naked Rod Parsley?
Some of you came and you ate and you left your dung.
He's buck, stark, frontal, nude, naked.
Right.
You're a reprobate.
You better talk to those preachers out there.
The Bible calls you a reprobate.
With no shame. He's not even trying to cover it up.
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. You know, for more than 6 months, we've brought you some troubling stories that originate from Rod Parsley and World Harvest Church. These stories include the Freemason occultic sword ceremony.
I present to you this sword.
That was complete with the Nazi swastika sword.
Here is a swastika sword.
Or how about the sword that hangs proudly on the wall at World Harvest Church that has the all-seeing eye and the skulls and the other occultic imagery? And then, yes, there have been the stories of abuse, obviously doctrinal abuse, spiritual abuse, and yes, SA and CSA, not reported, covered up, and even with retribution threatened towards those that would want to blow the whistle. Now, after a while, you think you've heard everything, but unfortunately, you haven't, because the story you're about to hear is going to take Creepa to a whole completely different level. The story you're about to hear is the story of Garrett May, who in 2007 was a 25-year-old preacher in the making from Pikeville, Kentucky, just down the road from Martin County and Warfield, which is where the Parsley clan originates from. Well, in 2007, at age 25, young Garrett packed himself and his wife and all their belongings into the car and drove up to Canal Winchester on the south side of Columbus, found an apartment, got jobs so that they could enroll in World Harvest Church Bible College, School of the Spirit. And just a couple of months into that, they had a great opportunity, or so they thought. They'd caught the notice of one of the staffers and were offered the position of personal assistant to Rod and Joni Parsley, respectively. Well, what they thought was the opportunity of a lifetime and a great honor soon became anything but. And oddly enough, the story concludes at a graveyard. A graveyard not too different from this small country graveyard that you see here, but a graveyard that in other respects is very, very different. So buckle up and get ready for Rod Parsley naked, not ashamed. Well, it's 6:30. The GPS says I'll be in Prestonburg, Kentucky about 9:15. I know that we are going to get the interview, very confident of that. That's going to document these bizarre, nasty, terrible behaviors. Garrett wants to go to the graveyard there in Warfield. He feels very strong about that. And so, hopefully, and I believe we will, I think we're going to get some clues as to where this behavior originates from and what kind of spirit is driving that. But we've got about 3 hours to go. Got plenty of coffee.
As I drove to Prestonburg, it kept running through my mind the possible causes of these behaviors and the spirit that would animate them. Now, we won't share what these behaviors are just now. You'll hear that from Garrett directly when we get to the interview. But the possible causes that I could think of were at least 3. 1, it might surprise you to learn that Freemasonry is rampant in rural Appalachia. 2, you get back in these hollers, there's superstition and witchcraft.
I went through a lot of things like that. My girlfriend's father could stop a hailstorm. My daddy could stop blood. And I don't care whether you believe it or not. I'm from back in the hills, from where the Indians were.
Belief in supernatural powers that are not attributed to God or the Holy Spirit, but believed in, feared, and sometimes actively practiced. And 3, there is generational sin and iniquity, strange, dirty, nasty behaviors that can go back sometimes generations.
Garrett, let's quickly walk through the period of time, just in a sentence or two. You came to the Lord initially at about age 14?
At age 14.
At age 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would have been about 96, 97.
Okay.
My freshman year of high school.
Yeah. And then in high school,
high school, what teenager doesn't have a hard time in that stage of their life? And it kind of, faded.
Okay. But how long did it fade? Did you have a comeback period?
No, I just kind of faded away. Like, I'm saved, but I'm still in my high school years, struggling with, just that high school period of my life.
But things did turn around.
They did.
Okay. Yeah. And you were about what age?
I was about 19.
19.
Yeah. And found myself going to church with a friend and feeling the tug of the Holy Spirit on my heart that I need to get right with God.
Okay.
That at age 14, that was the real me.
Yeah.
That was God speaking to me.
Right.
And there's only one thing to do is to get right back, with God.
Okay.
And that happened at age 19 or 20.
And so then what did that look like?
I started going to church every Sunday and Wednesday. I would pick up any praise and worship cassette tape.
Okay. Oh, I remember. Okay.
Yeah.
Barely in the cassette tape era.
We had CDs, of course. This is early 2000s. But, cassette tapes were still there.
Oh, yeah.
And, I was just hungry for God.
Yeah.
I was a young person at 19, 20 that really didn't know what I wanted to do with myself.
Right.
I didn't, leave high school and go straight to college.
Yeah.
My family owns a small business, so I worked there.
Yeah.
And at 20, I'm getting involved in church. I'm going to church every Sunday night, if they have it, every Wednesday, any special event. So God's working in my life. Shortly thereafter, I'm baptized in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And then that just gave me the boldness to the fire inside of me to, I'm going to serve God.
Yeah. Is that when you realized you felt you had a call?
Yeah, it was like the stamp or the all right, this is real, and God is truly working through me.
So did you get involved in different ministry opportunities?
I did, yes. Anything that the church had at the time, I would, help out. We would do the typical things, a Christmas program.
Yeah.
We had the nativity scene or whatever. I remember one year I was Joseph.
Okay.
So I
you
do
make
remember
a good
that.
Joseph. Yeah.
And having that calling, having that desire to serve God in a greater capacity that was beyond myself, that initially it wasn't my type of personality.
Right.
I wasn't, and still am, very introverted.
Yeah.
So to step out and say, I think God's calling me to preach, the baptism of the Holy Spirit really does give you that boldness.
Yeah.
And
did you get involved in like jail ministry?
I did. That was the first really touch of ministry. Our church, my home church, had a jail ministry where one of the preachers took care of it. Would bring other preachers along, in the church and guests and whatever, and he saw the call of God in my life, and hey, why don't you come with me?
And then there's a young lady that came into your life. We're not going to probably mention her name, but if we do, we'll bleep it out.
Yes.
But maybe you could talk about that just a little bit. Was she on fire for God too?
Yeah. Shortly after announcing my call, and I'm in ministry, helping with jail ministry, he's letting me get up and speak, and
pretty good for an introvert.
Pretty good. Pray and go to the local state penitentiary, our county jail. It was pretty good, but a young lady came into my life, and she was on fire for God.
Yeah.
And we hooked up.
Okay.
And we started dating.
And y'all got married?
And we got married shortly after.
And I apologize because I'm kind of moving us through. It's just we have so much to cover. So you guys eventually decided to make the decision.
We did.
You moved up to Columbus to World Harvest and Valor. How long had you been married at that point?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the impression on my heart from God before becoming married.
Yeah.
That God's calling me to World Harvest.
Yeah.
I watched Rod Parsley. I knew about him in my high school days because we went to a Pentecostal church. So Rod Parsley, B.D. Hinn, those are common names that get, talked about or, passed around.
And he's from Eastern Kentucky?
And he's from Eastern Kentucky. So I had a little, I don't know how to put it, but...
cultural connection.
A cultural connection to him.
Yeah.
I liked his style of preaching.
Yeah.
I was young, and I knew that he had a Eastern Kentucky background, and I just felt drawn to his ministry.
Yeah.
And he has a Bible college.
Very
and I
good.
felt, this is my calling. This is what God's calling me to do. I think I should attend World Harvest Bible College.
So y'all went to World Harvest.
Yeah.
It was in 2007?
2007, yes.
And so what happened once you got there?
We got there. We moved August of 2007 from our home here in Kentucky. Immediately, we're both looking for jobs. We found a place. We get accepted there at the college, and we're settled in. We have jobs, found an apartment, and we're there.
You're grounded and ready
I'm grounded.
to go.
I'm ready to go. And we're attending. We're looking forward to the semester starting.
Yeah.
It was all new, and we were just excited to be there. It was a very exciting
Even though you're
time.
in the cornfield, you're at the big
You're in
city
the cor-
too. There's that
Yeah,
aspect.
there's
of it. If
there's
you've
both
lived in the country all
aspects
your life.
of the Canal, Winchester, that area of Columbus, where you're just on the outside of Columbus. There's cornfields. There's some of the small towns, Canal, Winchester. There's Bryce, Reynoldsburg, Pickerington. But I mean, just the short distance away, you're in Columbus.
Yeah.
Which is, for me, coming out of Eastern Kentucky was,
That was cool.
there was a change in culture.
Okay. And again, sorry to keep us moving along, but so you're excited. You guys have relocated. You've got jobs. You got yourself settled. So you're ready to launch into Bible college.
Yes.
And so the semester gets started, and then a certain opportunity comes along. I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but maybe you can describe that.
Yes. So 2 to 3 months into our first semester, we are in probably a Sunday morning service, and I were sitting relatively close to the front, maybe the third or fourth or fifth row back.
Okay.
Because they will place you there at World Harvest. There's a person that will place you, can you sit over here? Can you sit there? And a lot of times we found ourselves relatively close to the front. And after service, a lady approached and I and said, hey, I've noticed you guys, who are you and what are you doing here? And, in a very nice, polite manner.
Yeah.
Of course, we tell her who we are, where
Yeah.
we're from, and that we are students at World Harvest Bible College, and it excited her.
Yeah.
And she said, well, if you would, could I meet with you next week at, a certain time?
Okay.
There's a opportunity that you might be interested in. Of course, we're ecstatic,
Yeah.
We're it's our first semester. Everything is just lining up for us, and we meet with the at the time, the head of the executive staff.
Okay.
At World
All right.
Harvest.
And how'd that go?
It went well.
Did you have butterflies?
I had butterflies. I thought, wow, I've made it. The last couple months is just been surreal for me. And here I am, not only in church, in the college, but I'm asked if I want a position in the executive staff as a personal assistant to Rod Parsley.
Must have seemed like a really big deal.
It was a big deal for me at the time.
Wait, did you say personal assistant?
I was a personal assistant. The personal assistant was leaving at the end of the year, near Christmas, and they were, looking for a replacement. They are very choosy back there.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but you're good looking. You're from Eastern Kentucky, and now you're in the big city.
I'm in the big city, and we're back there.
Yeah.
So maybe the same day we had an interview with Rod Parsley.
Yeah.
Hey, we need a personal assistant, and it appears you fit the bill. Just so happened, Joni's personal assistant is leaving shortly. And my wife at the time, yeah, I can do that. We'll be a great team.
So you're, in a real short time, y'all have come from Eastern Kentucky. We're here now. It's beautiful, but culturally, that's a bit
it's
of
a big change. Yeah, it's a big change.
So now you're in Columbus. You're at this church that you've seen on TV. You're enrolled in this Bible college that has been in your mind for a while, and now you're being offered,
a
personal assistant position with Rod, and your wife being offered a personal position or assistant position with
Miss Joni, his wife.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
and the lights just came on.
And the lights just came on. Right. It felt unbelievable.
Wow.
Like we're living a dream, And we're excited. We both had jobs, because we're young adults there. Sure. We're not staying on campus. We have our own apartment. We're funding our own way. And we, gave our notices at our jobs and started, relatively soon. The next week or whatever it was, maybe 2 weeks.
Well, let's fast forward into that because I know we have a lot that we want to cover. But so you went through like some training, and then the job started. Or?
Yeah. So for both of us, we were slightly trained. Rod's personal assistant at the time was Chad Williams.
Okay.
He was going back to, he's from Oklahoma. He was going back there for whatever reason. And Joni's assistant was leaving with, going and doing whatever she was doing. And they both trained us before they left. The training was not sufficient. But, they showed us around, got to see Rod's home, every aspect, every room is his home, every room aspect that he could show me of what I would be experiencing.
Yeah. From
gate codes to enter the home.
Oh, wow.
I remember going and seeing Rod's hunting cabinets, hunting rifles and things like that. So I was up close and personal with Rod.
Yeah.
There wasn't...
You're not on the outside looking in.
I'm not on the outside looking in. This is real.
Intensely personal.
Yes,
on the inside. Okay.
Right.
Was it exciting?
Did you feel it's so exciting.
Did you feel like I got a security clearance for the nuclear codes or
something? It's what I felt like. It was just so unbelievable.
And it happened pretty quick.
And it happened so quickly. This was within the first semester of my experience there.
How long did that excitement last?
That excitement probably ended at the end of the first semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going into the second semester, things had definitely changed or began to change for both of us.
So let's talk about being a personal assistant to a worldwide known, flies around on jets, is on TV at that time, I think every day on just about every Christian station in the United States. What was that like being his personal assistant?
It's very demanding.
Okay.
First and foremost, it's very demanding. Remember, I am a student at the college.
Right.
Classes are from, at that time, 8 to, I think, 12. So that gave me the opportunity to leave the college and serve in my role as a personal assistant from midday till when the job's done. And that job can lead up into night, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever. At night.
A lot of hours.
A lot of hours. And it did put a strain on my home life.
Right.
And my time to study, to prepare for class every day.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm in this new personal assistant position as Rod Parsley's personal assistant. And it felt so unbelievable. However, the honeymoon didn't last very long.
Okay.
The demand of that position, the demand that I had for my classes was definitely conflicting with each other, and my home life, because I was married at the time, and even though we were connected and almost working together, you could say.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot of moving parts going on, and it was a challenge.
Would you say, before we get to certain details, that once you were in, it was like that the demands of the position really conflicted with the initial reason that you showed up in the first place?
Yeah,
which was to get a
absolutely.
Bible education?
My reasoning for being there was to study and to feel more equipped.
Yeah.
Biblically, theologically, for ministry, for the future.
So that's one reason that the honeymoon didn't last forever.
Right.
What other reasons were there?
Things I experienced.
Okay, let's talk about that.
The things I experienced as Rod's personal assistant, you see everything. Rod has a facility there at the church that is exclusive to him and the executive team. It's the executive quarters of A Wing of the church there, World Harvest Church there on Agenda Road. So Rod leaves his home and works out of that. His office is there, but he gets dressed there. He prepares there
at the church.
At the church in these. It's a living quarters. It's basically an apartment there at the church.
And it's pretty fancy.
It's very fancy. I was in shock when I walked back there for the first time after
Was that
our interview.
the only thing that shocked you?
That's not the only thing that shocked me. I thought I was walking into Cabela's or a Bass Pro Shop with all the taxidermy.
Oh.
Secondly, after being in that position, I was just amazed at what I was seeing. The behavior coming from Rodney. I was confused at what I saw back there. He prepares, like I said, he comes there to get dressed for a Sunday, or Wednesday, whatever. He lives half the time there. That means you clean up, you take a bath, shower, whatever, change clothes, prepare.
He would arrive in casual dress.
Yeah, jeans, a t-shirt.
Okay.
Sweatshirt, whatever. And he prepares there for the service, suit and tie, shoes. It's all there. He has his own living quarters. And it was shocking to me the first or the second time I'm back there, because as personal assistant, you are supposed to almost track behind his every step.
Right.
You got to be mindful of everything on the schedule. Mm-hmm. From little bit of the details of the service to where he's going to be at tomorrow, by the end of the week. They plan all this stuff out, and it gets passed along the schedule among the executive staff. So one of my first experiences back there, him preparing for service, he's changing his clothes.
Okay.
He's getting out of the casual clothes and into his suit. And there's where he gets ready in his bedroom, which has a bathroom and, of course, closet, bed, dresser, those type of things. A living area, it's a kitchen, living area. There's a library there.
Yeah.
And I'm in that library part of the apartment, and there's double doors that separate the living room from the bedroom.
Okay.
But it still has that big open feel to it.
Right.
Open area. And Rod is naked, walking back and forth, talking to me, instructing me on what to do later that day or go get this for me.
When you say naked, like he's in his boxer shorts or his briefs?
No, this is complete 100% naked.
In Tennessee, we say butt naked. You're saying?
Butt naked.
Okay, but that's just for a quick second.
No. He's conversing with me.
What, conversing? Like
You
looking
and I,
right at you?
Yeah, not as close, but looking at me to tell me, go get this, whatever, I need this.
So it's not like a oops, sorry?
No, it's not a oops, sorry kind of situation. He's meaningfully walking around, a king in his castle, butt naked.
And he's looking at you eye to eye?
Yeah, eye to eye.
Did you,
15, 20 feet away.
Did you return his gaze?
No, it was shocking to me, Everett. Yeah. Here I am, a young Christian, a young preacher that looks up to him, on so many different levels. Pastor, the evangelist Rod Parsley. And I'm seeing him talk to me naked.
This is so shocking to me, but so pardon me if we go back over this. You're saying that you've been there for a matter of months. Mm-hmm. You're there to pursue a call of God, prepare yourself, get a Bible education. Right. You get this opportunity for this, like, once in a lifetime, or like how many other people get this opportunity. Right. And you're executive assistant to a worldwide known, travels around on private jets, is on all these different TV stations. You're what, 25 years old?
I'm 25 years old.
That would make him about 50.
He was 50 years old.
And he's buck stark, frontal nude, naked, talking to you like that's normal?
With no shame. He's not even trying to cover it up. Or it's almost, I was under the impression like, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Because it's so open and out. It ain't like he's sneaking behind the door. Hey, can you run and get something? I'm getting ready to get in the shower or whatever and get this for me.
You're a guy, I'm a guy. We've been in junior high. We've been in high school.
Right.
So we've been in the locker room.
And
But so glimpses or what, but in any other time in your life as an adult male, have you had another adult male totally butt naked, like we say in Tennessee, talking to you as though this is totally normal for me to be standing here twice your age as a butt naked guy that has employee authority over you?
No, I've never experienced anything like that in my life at that point. And I'm in total shock. I don't know what to do. I'm listening to his commands and trying to keep from having to face him and see what I'm trying to prevent from seeing, and do my job and not do the wrong thing, because the culture back there, the atmosphere back there in Executive Wing is everyone walks, talks, and behaves in a certain professional fear almost. Because, Rod is, he's the king of the castle. He's Pastor Rod. And to have to face that, it was kind of traumatizing on multiple levels.
Garrett, I'm going to ask a couple questions. Mm-hmm. And I apologize, because this is, we ain't never been here before.
Yeah.
We all have a memory.
Yeah.
In your mind's eye, in your memory.
Right.
Can you still see those images?
Unfortunately, I can.
So you really can't unsee a naked Rod Parsley worldwide evangelist. You can't. The guy on the platform, you can't unsee that.
Of course, that was 17 years ago, approximately, and memory fades. Memory is not as close as it once was. However, when I give thought to Rob Parsley or think about World Harvest Church, I can't help but to think that image of Rob Parsley naked.
Isn't that kind of like mental
It
rape?
is, you know, in a way. And maybe that was his intention. It was like he knew what he was doing.
Do you think he was trying to see, was that like a sexual come on? Is he a homosexual at least part-time? Or
I want to say for the record that he never like tried to come on to me or wink at me or, you know, but there was something absolutely weird. Why are you standing in front of me completely naked? You're walking back and forth while your bath water's running or whatever.
I apologize for asking this. Was it part of your responsibilities to run his bath water?
Yes, that's something that we were supposed to do, be prepared, but I'm new to it. I'm in shock.
It's kind of like filling up the swimming pool. Make sure the swimming pool.
Yes,
You
yes.
didn't know he's going to come parading around.
Right.
Yeah.
But the atmosphere is so intense around him, and that I was in constant anxiety, shock, awe, confused, that I couldn't do that position.
Some people that will see
service.
this will say, well, the minute that would have happened, I would have just hightailed and bucked out of, I would have got out of there.
Yeah.
How would you answer that person?
Well, for one thing, you have to have a plan of escape, and it's not easy to escape out of the back quarters, the executive quarters back there, for one thing. I looked up to Rod so much, I didn't know what to say, think, or any of those things, you know. As a young man, a young preacher, in my mind, I put him on a high pedestal.
How high a pedestal?
Very high. You know, I put him, you know, people would talk, this is my favorite preacher, or this, and Rob was mine as a young man.
Wow.
Because I felt like I connected with him as...
Did Chad Williams, the guy that trained you, did he say, oh, by the way, Rod will be
I don't
walking around
recall.
totally
No,
stark naked
no.
and talking to you totally stark naked?
No, of course, he took me around within a week, maybe just a few days, showing me, here's the closet, here's this.
Did the
go
lady
here.
that first introduced you?
Oh, absolutely.
Did she? But did she know this would be part of the job description to deal with full frontal naked Rod Parsley?
No, that was never. That wasn't part of the training. I was in so much shock and disbelief almost of what I was experiencing.
Does Canfield know this goes on?
I don't know.
I'm going to ask you a question that occurred to me. We've all been places in churches and youth camps and conventions. How many naked preachers have you ever seen?
This was the first. Right. It was the first for me.
And you actually, because you guys didn't stay there very long, but you didn't stay in that position forever. In other words, you finished Bible college. Looking back on the real Bible classes that you took,
Yes.
is there anything that actually justifies that behavior that he, I'll use the word perpetrated. I don't want to talk politically correct. It's just the most gross and disgusting thing ever. This is in a place in my brain that nothing else exists. I've never heard of anything like this.
Right. No. You know, nothing prepared me for that.
Does his family know that he does this with personal assistance?
I definitely know Ashton does, because I was there once when he was naked and she's in from college.
Okay.
And she's back there while I was sitting on the couch waiting to, do my duties, do my work as personal assistant. And he's in the bathtub, of course, completely naked, and Ashton's probably sitting beside of him on the toilet. Having
we're not accusing Ashley of using the toilet, but you're saying, or Ashton,
she's
pardon
close
me,
by.
She's sitting on the toilet talking to her naked dad.
Yeah. While he literally gets up to dry off with a towel, walking around.
So just so I'm clear, this kind of parading around naked behavior wasn't like a one-off or one time or just with you. He's engaging in this with his 18 or 19-year-old daughter in the same bathroom while he's taking a bath?
Yeah, to me, as here I am slightly away from them in that living room part of the quarters.
Yeah.
I can hear their every word of their their conversation. They're talking about family life, mom this, and
the
your
stock
brother,
market or
whatever.
Yeah.
How's school?
Well, Garrett, so if they're just at like mundane level conversation, and he's just walking around without a stitch of clothing on with his at 18, you're an adult.
Yeah.
When did that behavior start? Would behavior like that start the day after you?
Oh no, it's happened before. It was normal for them, and definitely not normal for me.
Did you ever see anything similar with Ashton? Because as a personal assistant, you were probably there at the church, but working on grounds or working on landscaping? Or...
Yes. So that type of behavior or something similar to it, I experienced at the home too. Once I was there, Ashton, this might be the summer of 2008, Ashton's home. It could have been just a weekend. And I'm there cleaning or doing my duties, and she walks out of the bathroom with just a towel on upstairs. And maybe she came downstairs. I was nearby.
Yeah.
Of course, I immediately turned my head, and
she would have known that there was
people there, because you could hear us talking. Her mother's there, Joni's there, Austin's there, I'm there, Ashley's there.
Yeah.
We're doing whatever we're doing.
Right.
And Ashton, in similar fashion as Rod, parades around in a towel. She's covered.
Yeah.
But it was still an uncomfortable event for me.
Your wife is right there.
My wife is
18,
right there.
You're 25. That's the whole thing.
It's weird. Completely weird.
Yeah.
Johnny might have made a comment like, Ashton, please, get back upstairs, whatever. Of course, I'm doing...
So Ashton walks around in a towel with strangers in the house, but she's also comfortable hanging out with her naked father taking a bath while she's sitting on the toilet talking to him. And all this is happening in front of the personal assistants, you, and we'll beep it, but at the time...
weird.
Is there anything else in your life that you've experienced that is as weird and strange as this?
Never in my life. I never experienced anything like that in my life. So being around them and their family culture was shocking to me.
But over and over again, just a part of modus operandi, you are expected to be a personal assistant that takes instructions and has to interact with a completely naked worldwide evangelist.
Right.
And be okay when his 18-year-old daughter comes in, and be okay with waiting out in really close proximity while she's in there, while he's taking a bath. And then, although you didn't see exactly the same thing with her, she parades around in a towel with known staffer.
Yeah.
Who else do you think has been exposed to this kind of stuff?
Well, I'm sure others have, but for me, it was just a total shocker for me. It's like we mentioned earlier, it's images and thoughts and experiences that, I'll never forget.
In a little bit, I'm going to ask you the question, if Rod Parsley were sitting right here, what would you want to say to him? But what I'm going to do right now is I think we could belabor this, but I think we've covered it. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I am shocked. I've never heard of that. Never heard of that. I don't have a place in my brain to put it. Let's walk through a handful of experiences that you saw Parsley's behavior as an assistant, because you lasted in that position
2 to 3 months.
And how did that position end? Did you put in a notice?
I did not put in a notice. I was confronted by Debbie Stacy, which her title at the time I think was executive director of executive staff or
Did she have to deal with Parsley naked or no?
Well, that I cannot say, but she confronted me one day. She called me into her office and said, "Hey, can I speak with you?" Sure. What's going on? And she just went straight to the point. Can you get your old job back? Rod Parsley is not comfortable around you.
So man to man, I'm cutting in and I apologize. Yeah. Ostensibly, he has an issue with you.
Apparently.
But he doesn't have whatever it is to look you in the eye and say, "Hey, Doc." He's going to do that through a woman.
Yes.
What do you think
staff.
his real motivation was?
I don't know. To this day, I do not know.
A lot of people are afraid to ask questions.
Right.
I'm going to ask this question.
Okay.
Was he embarrassed?
Maybe, yes.
That he paraded his junk around in front of you?
He paraded his junk around in front of me, and of course, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable around Rod now.
Is it possible? I'm keeping us moving. I apologize, but we got so much. I'm just asking a question. Was he hoping that you would end up being kind of gay or bi or something?
I don't know. It was so weird.
Is it completely out of the realm of possibility to even ask the question?
That is a perfect question to ask. It would be logical to think that, was he trying to get a response out of me by seeing him naked?
Is it the same thing when a straight guy goes to prison and all of a sudden he becomes a dominant gay guy?
It's weird.
Weird.
I can't explain how weird it is.
Okay, I'm moving us ahead.
Because just imagine for a moment, young college student, young man. My wife works essentially with me in the ministry. She's not far away. And he's parading himself around in his living quarters naked on purpose. There's no excuse. It's totally unnecessary. He's not trying to hide behind the door. He's not trying to hurry and grab his towel, maybe some shorts, some underwear. He's doing it on purpose.
When you first told me, I immediately thought of LBJ, who was known to be defecating and talking to his staff as a way to degrade them.
Right.
We'll move on from this. So, Debbie Stacy, Rod's not comfortable with you.
He's not comfortable.
We'll just pick it up from there.
Basically, we're going to let you go because he's not comfortable being around you. Again, I'm in shock on a different level because I looked up to him because it hurt me. Not only seeing him naked, of course, hurt me. I'm disappointed in him. I didn't see the holy Rod, man of God, that I always anticipated and saw on TV. On another level, he's not comfortable around me. I'm in shock. But I'm there to go to school.
Yeah.
I'm going to school.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish my... I made it in my mind. I didn't go there to quit.
Right.
Regardless of what came my way.
Yeah.
This was very unfortunate for me to see and experience this. I'm looking at him very, he's different.
Yeah.
I'm seeing him in a totally different manner. He's not the Rod Parsley, the man of God that I always thought of and looked up to as a young man, young preacher. And I told Debbie, I said, I don't know if I can get my old job back. They might say, we're full, don't need you. I'm a student here. I got to pay my bills. I've got rent. I've got books to buy. This is unfortunate, but do you have a position here in the ministry? She calls or talks to someone. Yeah, we do. There was probably more than one. And they mentioned someone to work at the warehouse. I said, that's probably a good fit for me. And that's where I left from his.
Because you needed a job.
I got to have a job.
Yeah, I got and whatnot.
Right. I got to pay my bills.
Okay, so was it just a sideways transfer, or did it affect how much they paid you?
It did affect me. I did get a pay cut. Actually, I got a pay cut from my original job there in Columbus to the personal assistant, because I had opportunity for overtime, even though I really didn't want it at my job, because, I got to study, I can't constantly work and, study and go to school too. So from my initial time there, getting a job, I keep going down, so to speak.
So you're out there in the pagan world making a certain amount, but you could make more if you worked overtime. Right. But then for this great privilege, the money is less. But then after Mr. Naked Rod Parsley is not comfortable with it after a few months, they want you to go back, but they have a lateral move. Yes. And then the money's even lower.
The money's even lower.
Thank you very much.
And I remember the accountant at the time, John Lariat, if I had the name correctly, respond to Debbie saying, well, can we do him a little bit better on the pay as a warehouse worker? And he's basically like, no, this is what it pays in this area. Take it or leave it. $10 an hour.
Do they always pay the same amount for a personal assistant?
No. Unfortunate for me, I found out later that Chad was paid much more than I was.
Like substantially more?
Yeah, probably 10 to 20 grand more.
So you're this innocent, naive kid from the eastern hills of Kentucky. You're only 25. You're still a little bit starstruck. And Shazam, we can get this guy at cut rate. And then after we get tired because I've been walking around naked so long and he hasn't come on to me, we can move him over into the warehouse.
Right. We talked about this before in our conversations before this interview, that when he hired me and my wife, that he was bragging to his other staff. I unfortunately heard this in the hallways or whatever, of what a good deal he got. He was basically bragging to the other staff, Rod Parsley, that he got 2 for 1 almost.
This guy really took advantage of you.
Oh, absolutely.
Really took advantage of you. Here's what we're going to do. You had some other experience. Well, let me ask you this. After they moved you to the warehouse, were they ever shorthanded in personal assistant where you had to go back and fill in for a bit as a personal assistant?
Right. So, yes, I still continued in a smaller capacity as personal assistant. I came and went.
But when you moved over to personal assistant, of course they bumped up your pay, right?
No. I got, I think, the same hourly pay as the warehouse position, but due to my services provided, I kept up with the hours, was cut a check from their personal account money, apart from the church ministry position that I had.
So it's still at the reduced wage, but it has the added burden of you got to jump through a couple more hoops.
I got to jump through a couple more
document
hoops.
Where it's got to be paid out of.
Right, and of course turn it into my manager or boss or the accounting department to get my weekly payday.
Let's post, because we're doing this for a viewing audience, and people have a certain amount of time that they can invest. You have shared with me, apart from what we've spent quite a bit of time on, which it deserved that time, more than let's pick 2 or 3 weirdisms that happened while you were still there. You told me about a basketball game.
Yes. Oh, yes. My time as personal assistant was brief, 2 to 3 months. However, we're talking the fall, winter of late 2007. As personal assistant, you are 7 days a week with Rod. Of course, Sunday, because that's the biggest day of the week. There's service. But in the evenings, if he decides to go to a basketball game, you will be there. Yeah. You will drive him or at least follow him to be his extra security or extra, hands.
Right.
There was once HPS, Harvest Prep, had an away game at a school in Dayton, Ohio. I remember traveling on the interstate, going there in one of the ministry vans, the executive ministry vans, with another staff member that was kind of helping me along at the time. Nathan, and we go to a Harvest Prep game at some high school in Dayton. Nothing shouldn't be nothing. He'll go to a game,
Right.
nothing to speak of. The guys either won or they lost, but no, that was an experience in of itself. During the ball game, everyone realized that Rod is, he's a basketball fan. It's his school, it's his boys, so to speak, out there on the floor. He's cheering the team along.
Yeah.
But his behavior goes much further than a interactive fan.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. He's making some noise.
Yeah.
A lot of noise. He was so bad, Everett, that where we were originally sitting in the bleachers, he walks up to a couple rows behind us to the top, and he's screaming at the guys. He's screaming at the refs, foul, rebound, get the ball. Too much,
Yeah.
Acting like the parent that's just too much with their child, too demanding.
Yeah.
He's demanding, the best out of his boys there on the team. It was so bad that even the opposing team members there at the school, the visiting team, were interacting with Rod, engaging in some rough verbal talk, And it was absolutely embarrassing to see Pastor Rod Parsley engage with some rough language with, I don't know, it could have been the student's mom, aunt, grandmother, whatever. They're going back and forth to a point that they're almost cussing at each other. Nathan.
Is this a mostly black school?
It was a black school. It was.
And
obvious.
was the lady that he was she an African American?
Yes. It was an African American school in the Dayton closer.
Am I
inner
out
city.
of line for characterizing this as he's basically in a shouting match that almost gets
in a shouting
physical
match. Yeah.
with an African American woman?
Right.
And what did she say to him?
Can't remember verbatim, but it was basically, we don't care that you're Rod Parsley and you have a TV in a big church. Shut up.
Yeah.
And he basically told her to shut up, maybe in different words.
And they're a guest in somebody else's school system, in somebody else's school building.
We are probably one of the few people there from Harvest Prep. Because, Dayton from Columbus, hour and a half maybe, give or take.
Yeah. You shared with me two different Canfield stories.
Yes.
One Canfield story was what he tried to tell you about the purity of Rod Parsley and his culinary habits. Can you just speak on that? And
so
apologize if you can give us the quick version.
I was there 2007 to 2009. I'm a graduate of 2009. At that time, they had, I think, two classes called CPR, Current Prophetic Realities, where they essentially taught out of Rod's books. No Dry Season was a popular sermon that he had, and there were others. No More Crumbs, I think, was one of them. So the instructor preached, taught Rod's talking points, Rod's sermons, Rod's ideas through the whole class period. And there was one class I remember, Bill Canfield speaking on Rod's purity, eating habits, how great he is as, this holy leader, that, Rod doesn't touch this, Rod doesn't do that, Rod won't let this certain food, touch his lips. He doesn't go to McDonald's or your typical fast foods, Burger King, you name it. And this was my time as personal assistant. I'm at my desk and, I want to say, Bill, you're wrong. I seen him eat, because I bought it for him. I went and picked it up for him.
On numerous occasions?
On more than one occasion, yes.
Well, first of all, how bizarre is it that you go there for a Bible college education, and then you've got this guy that's preaching the virtues of a man,
right?
And he's lying.
He's lying
in the process.
In the process, he's lying.
Is Bill Canfield a liar?
I would say yes, because I experienced it. I was there.
Okay, was he lying to everybody on your graduation day when maybe you can tie those two stories together?
So another Bill Canfield story is Rod was not there at the 2009 class graduation ceremony.
Yeah.
We had Tommy Bates as the guest speaker preaching that ceremony. And I distinctly remember Bill getting up because I think he was the host. He's the one officiating.
Had he just come from McDonald's?
Possibly. But Rob was not there that night. And knowing the ministry and knowing a lot of where Rob was at the time, Bill gave a lame excuse why Rod could not attend his college graduation ceremony, because I knew where he was at. It was a lame excuse, and that was very. It was hard to swallow. So was he off
preaching like with Reinhard Bonnke in Africa or some great big ministry event? He just wasn't there.
He just didn't want to be there.
So I just want to wrap this together for a minute. You're a young, on-fire, sincere, somewhat innocent, because we all are at that age, kid from Kentucky, been married just a couple of years, but based on the impact and an influence of Rod Parsley, you relocate your life. You go to Columbus.
Yeah.
You go through all of that trauma, and then he's not even there.
He's not even there, and they're that ceremony, and that kind of hit hard. Even though I experienced seeing him naked, and I experienced all these naked or negative aspects of his ministry, it was another blow.
I'm going to ask you this, Garrett. If Rod Parsley were sitting right here, right now, what would you want to say to him?
Why? Then I would tell him my story that he never cared to listen to or care to hear, that he used myself as many others are used. Ministry peasants, free labor, easy labor, cheap labor, to carry out the small ins and outs of that ministry. Why? I went there on fire for God, and I left there not caring if I ever walked in a church again.
So you guys left. You graduated for the graduation service that he wasn't there for.
May 2009.
May 2009. So I apologize. Can you give us, and we'll address this in some other ways. Can you give us the 2-minute version of what happened once you graduated?
Once we graduated, we left immediately, and it was like a prison escape. We were so happy, felt so free. 2 years was enough for both of us.
Yeah.
We moved back to Kentucky. Didn't really know what God had in store for us next. However, the spiritual trauma that I experienced there at WHC did have a lot of weight, negative impact on my marriage. And we separated. Within a few months after that, we divorced.
When was your divorce final?
December 2009.
So you graduated in May of 2009. It's like getting out of jail, getting out of prison.
Right.
But instead of being able to enjoy the freedom,
right.
And I know you don't want to speak ill of your first wife,
right.
But how would you describe her mental condition? Just a couple. I mean, emotional. That's a better word. Emotional. How healthy was she?
She was not healthy, and I looking back, I feel part of the blame in a way, because it was more my ambition or my goal to go to World Harvest, to go to the college and get graduate.
And again, I'm kind of just pressing because of time.
Right.
Would you associate that with trauma?
Oh, absolutely.
All the trauma?
Yeah, it was very traumatizing.
And so the way that she reacted,
Right.
in addition to the trauma, is
Right.
it was her idea to get the divorce.
Yeah. Right.
What else did she do?
Right.
Did she enlist in the military?
She thought about it. She would come home and like, I'm going to go to the Army.
Okay.
And I'm like, what are you talking about?
But she didn't actually go.
She didn't actually go.
Okay.
Right.
But she was at a place
right.
where it actually appealed to her to go to what might be...
It appealed to go to the military, and it was due to the trauma we experienced there.
A safe, predictable environment.
Yeah.
Huh. I asked you, Garrett, what you would say to Rod Parsley if he were sitting here.
Right.
And your answer to that question, very sobering, would be why?
Why?
It might be at the gravesite that we have to get to the good news, but when this is put together and we put the pieces together, there are going to be preachers out there
Yeah.
that, just like they always do, rush in to defend
Right.
everything about this man, and probably everything like this with any other ministry that is similar to that. What would you say to those guys?
Beware. You probably don't know half the stories. There are many thousands of people like myself that has experienced negative trauma, negative experiences at that ministry, and there's ministers and ministries out there that it's the same thing. Don't be so quick to uphold the behavior of the pastor, the leader that you're thinking that someone's going against, or someone is just trying to speak ill, or being not thoughtful and too easy to speak against. You don't know. There's hurt people out there, and it's healing for them just to talk about it.
Yeah.
I've had 15 years. I'm just now coming out. And it's like healing, restoration, medicine.
What would you say, this is my third and last question along this line, what would you say to the person that's in the place that you are or were a few months ago, that's been beat up, chewed out, spit out, doesn't know if they want to have anything to do with it, feels ripped off? What would you say to them?
Moving forward, as we've talked about, I went through a period of 15 years compartmentalized atheist, leaving World Harvest Church, having all those negative things happen to me. My life fell apart, so to speak, after leaving and graduating, and I was on a path to nowhere. I didn't want anything to do with God. I had no desire to preach anymore. I went to a few churches, but nothing kind of just made everything go away. The trauma, the experiences, it's like nothing was just work. I said, I'm done with God. If this is ministry, if this is God, I don't want anything to do with it. However, after 15 years, I have finally, God has worked in my heart, and I've given my heart back to God, and it feels so great. And I'm here telling my story in front of you, that hopefully if you are a Valor, a World Harvest student, or maybe it's a totally different ministry out there in another state, it doesn't matter, and you have experienced something like this, there's still hope.
Okay.
There's still, God's just a prayer away. You can be restored. It's not too late. Don't give up. If you're a young person that was on fire for God and you encountered something that you never even thought could even happen to your life, as a young person, seeking God, seeking ministry, seeking to serve Him in any way, and you fell off. You fell off the wagon. There's still hope. I gave my heart back to God this summer, late this summer.
Did you think about reaffiliating with
I
World
did.
Harvest?
I thought about reaffiliating with World Harvest. Rod's still got the ministry. I fell off the wagon for 15 years. Maybe, let things just, forget about them, and I met you.
But is that really what happened, that he was right, you were wrong?
No. And God he's shown me that. Right. We are here under God's divine bringing together.
Yeah.
To say that you don't have to look backwards.
Right.
Look forward. Don't look back to your mess. Don't look back to the negativity. Look forward. Seek God. God will restore you. But, you got to ask Him.
Yeah.
He's not going to pressure you. Right now, I'm in the best state of my life, I feel. I'm remarried. I have a beautiful wife that has recently give her heart to God and is baptized. I have 2 children. I couldn't be in a more perfect state in my mind here on this earth, and blessed. Even though I went to World Harvest and I had all these negative experiences and 15 years of drought and heartache, God's in the restoring business, and He can restore you.
I've seen the picture of you and she is a lovely wife. You
She
married
is.
up. Don't
Absolutely.
know how you manage that, but you come by it
God's-
honest, I bet.
God He still works, even though if you're not seeking Him. He's still got you back. He's not far away.
He sees down the road.
He sees down the road.
You got 2 beautiful children. Yeah. Garrett, would you ever consider taking your beautiful family
Absolutely not.
to World Harvest Church?
I'll
in
answer
Parsley?
that before you finish with your question. Absolutely not. My children will never see the inside of that place.
When the interview was over, I knew that we had captured something pretty historic. Nationally known, even worldwide evangelist engaging in these kind of behaviors, and the testimony coming from an actual eyewitness with 1,000% credibility. Yeah, unfortunately, this has got to be shared. So I sent a clip to 3 podcaster friends of mine, Jason Rimbert of Moments of Truth, Robin Torgrimson of Megamaniacs, and Pastor Mike Mahurin of Refiner's Fire. I told them, please be watching for my call, because I will want to get your reaction. Now, I had told, and in fact promised Garrett, that we would go to the Warfield Cemetery after the interview. And he had promised me that it would be well worth it, and it was. We learned and confirmed way more than I expected. So after the interview was over, we packed up the gear, Garrett did the driving, and I made some phone calls.
Yep. There you go.
Hey, bro.
Hey, Brother Jason, sorry to bug you. I only got a minute, though. Listen, can I get your quick reaction to that clip that I sent you?
With the guy in Rob Parsley?
Yes, sir.
Man, let me tell you something, bro. That right there was the most sickening thing I ever heard. My stomach literally turned. And I have to say this, to me, it looked like a grooming process. Like, and I don't throw the word sexual assault around loosely, but that's like a mental sexual assault that he did on that gentleman. Because one's supposed to be his pastor, 2 supposed to be his employer, and for you to strip down, he starts raging naked in front of this person, trying to have a conversation, knowing that he's uncomfortable, but you're forcing him to participate in this conversation with you anyway. To me, that shows that you're grooming him for something else.
Yeah. And like I said, we're on the way to a graveyard here. But look, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being really, really, really strange, put a number on it for me.
Bro, I couldn't. This is above 10. I got to give it a 25.
And then last thing, Brother Jason, you've been around, you've been to camps, conventions, you've been around ministry a lot. How many naked preachers have you seen in your life?
I've never seen not one.
Well, let's keep it that way. I'll keep you posted. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank
Okay,
you.
talk to you.
Hello.
Brother, I've only got a minute, but can you give me your best pastor's reaction to what was on that clip?
All right, so it's very bizarre. I've heard of other families that do stuff like that, but the bottom line for me, being a worldwide television evangelist and pastor of a mega church, to me this has gone beyond spiritually weird to being, I think, mentally, something's wrong with him mentally, is my opinion. I mean, just his outburst, his behavior in front of family, in front of strangers, and just to watch him even on the platform preaching, to me, he's got some kind of mental instabilities somehow. It's beyond arrogancy to me. It's just something wrong with him. That's my opinion.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts. Hey, Robin. We are on the way to the Warfield Cemetery, so I got just a minute, but I had to get your reaction to the video link that I sent you.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Everett, I have to say I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked. So, and I say that because, you know, in seeing and hearing what Garrett had to say, it takes you back even to the moment, I feel like, where he was in that room and first had these interactions, and in imagining how would you respond if you were put into that situation. But also, you know, for the last 6 or 7 months, I've been talking to people that have been sharing similar stories, and I have to tell you, even when I heard a similar story the first time, I was trying to justify it, or like, did that really happen? Not that I didn't believe them, but it's so shocking that someone, especially a pastor, would think that it's appropriate to walk around in front of people naked.
Well, he was there. This is on audio, video, the testimony. Yeah. Robin, I appreciate it. Hey, I will let you know how things go at the graveyard. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Just before we reached Warfield, we came across an unexpected piece of confirmation. Everett Road. Not kidding you.
Garrett, I assure you, I do not own this road. But when we rode out here the first time, it sure felt prophetic that, like, we were at the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
There you have it, folks. Okay.
There it is.
Yep, that was good.
It took about a minute, okay, maybe two, to drive through Warfield. On the other side of Warfield, we found the little 2-track that goes up the hill to the Warfield Cemetery. It's about 4 feet wide. It was covered with snow. Garrett didn't seem too concerned in the Ram 2500 diesel with the 4-wheel drive. Now, we're going to take you to the graveyard and Garrett's remarks from the graveyard in just a moment. But you've heard from 3 podcasters, 2 of whom happen to be preachers. But I wanted to hear from a forensic psychologist, a forensic counselor, to weigh in on these bizarre behaviors. Debbie Linhart. That's a name that'll be familiar to pretty much everyone who read the first Julie Roy's article dealing with Jonathan Lamb, Susie Lamb, Baby Lamb, and the whole Daystar fiasco. Debbie Linhart is the forensic counselor that did not exonerate Pete because Pete did not cooperate. Well, as the Lord would have it, Debbie Linhart reached out to me through Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson on a completely unrelated matter, and yes, being a little bit opportunistic, I asked if she would please weigh in on these behaviors. Debbie was very generous and gracious with her time. We spoke for at least a half an hour. That'll be posted sometime in the future, but here are a few of the most salient remarks from that telephone conversation.
All I know is, to me, it's extremely bizarre and wicked. But, like, clinically, how would you classify that?
Clinically, I would classify that as what's called a cluster B personality disorder.
Okay.
And there are several personality disorders that land under that classification or category.
Right.
And among those are what we call narcissistic personality disorder or a histrionic personality disorder.
Okay.
And both of those have certain characteristics that someone would have to demonstrate or show to be put into that classification.
Gotcha. And are those ever, like, blended, or is somebody, like, they're going to be this or they're going to be that, or do they ever overlap or blend, or how does that work?
Yes, they can. Sometimes it's possible to have more than one type, or a mixed combination of those types, which would really land it in what we would call another specified personality disorder.
Prophetically, the people of what's coming, if they don't...
This is a little more difficult or just unnerving. In his testimony, you have, in this case, Rod Parsley's 18-year-old daughter in the same room while he's parading himself around naked and actually taking a bath with her sitting 2 feet away on the toilet. Is that abuse to this 18-year-old daughter?
Because of the age, I don't think you could classify that as abuse. But what I would say is that being 18, technically she was an adult and could have walked away.
Yes.
However, you have to look at how the culture that she was raised in.
Yes.
This is something that happened in her family from the time that she was a young child.
Right.
And aware of that, of sexual differences.
Yeah.
You certainly could say it was inappropriate, and she may have been acculturated in
Right.
that environment, so that 18, she wouldn't think anything about it, because for her, that was normalized.
You better talk to those preachers out there.
The Bible calls you a reprobate.
Prophesy, prophet.
It is definitely a form of sexual harassment.
Yes.
Because anytime you're in you're under a person, like an employee of a person,
Yes, ma'am.
they do something that is inappropriate, sexual, then it would certainly land in the category of harassment
Okay.
and be dealt with under the law in that category.
Okay.
Prophetically, the people of what's coming, if they don't.
And what is there a simple definition for paraphilic?
It's just a classification of all of the different types of sexual disorders. It includes things like an exhibitionist disorder,
Right.
or voyeurism, which would be really watching someone else.
Yes.
It also includes things like sexual sadism or a pedophilic disorder, which of course has to do with children.
You better
The
talk to
Bible
those
calls
preachers
you,
out there.
the Bible calls you a reprobate.
Prophesy, prophet.
Wouldn't this almost invariably be a behavior that started when she was a little girl?
I would suspect that it was. There are across our nation, unfortunately, a lot of family cultures that accept this as normal behavior, although to the vast majority of us, it isn't.
And for those families that this is normal, is that like a generational or a multi-generational thing usually, or sometimes, or?
Yes. In most cases, it goes back many generations. And even part of that has to do with geographical differences. For most Americans, that would be considered strange behavior.
Well, for this American it is. This is actually the first Masonic tombstone that I ever saw, that I knew that's what I saw. So you can see the G with the compass and square, and then the upside down pentagram, and then you see the little 3 loops, chain loops in the middle, and those 2 symbols on either side probably mean something as well. And then I also noticed this. This seems to be a popular name around here, but that last name Kirk, there's something to that name, but we'll find out sooner or later. Probably sooner than later. So if you look close, you'll see the Masonic emblem on both sides of the name, but that's not the only one. Well, Garrett, you came up here a while back and you found some stuff.
Yeah, 6 or 8 weeks ago, I was in the area.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to come over here since I knew this family, worked for this family, and pay my respects to James and Ellen. And when I got here, I was very surprised at what I found. So let's
see. Yeah, let's see what you found.
being from this area, I live approximately an hour from here. I knew that the Parsleys were from Martin County, Warfield area. With a little research, I found the location where James and Ellen are buried. And like I said, I wanted to pay my respects. Because recently I had a renewal in my life of putting away the resentment of 15 years once
Right.
leaving that ministry in 2009. And as I mentioned earlier, I was in shock at what I found here, Everett. If you can see behind me, Parsley monument.
Wow.
And I immediately noticed that cross. I think that's the logo, official logo of Breakthrough Ministries.
So on the monument, he's got the Breakthrough logo.
Yes.
And then below that, what is that?
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. We have not only Psalm 62, verses 5 and 6, but we have some quotes that if you've been around the ministry, World Harvest Church, or heard Parsley preach, I'm almost certain you've probably heard this quote at the bottom.
Yeah. He's quoting himself on his own tombstone.
Right.
Who does that? Who quotes themselves on their own tombstone?
Well, this is a lot, Everett, but what speaks to me more than seeing this quote, and you probably barely can see Dr. Rod Parsley at the bottom,
Yeah.
is I see the Masonic symbols.
Well, yeah, you've got the two columns.
You've got the two columns. One
got-
is for Boaz and Jachin.
Yep.
I think
Jachin's on one side, Boaz is on the other.
I can't remember left and right. One means strength. I think the other one means certainty.
And then he's got the Solomon's Temple roof.
We got the Solomon's Temple, and you can imagine just putting the eye right here.
Yeah.
That has a lot of Masonic meaning.
So this is a Freemasonry tombstone,
I think so.
monument, whether anybody realizes it or not.
Yeah, I think so. You can say this is the wisdom of Rod Parsley, the doorway, the wisdom of Solomon, and his temple, right here in Warfield.
And I also noticed on Ellen's stone, she passed away, didn't she?
As far as I know.
Well, she doesn't have an end date.
I think she passed in 2018, but it's definitely
So
not
what does
there.
that mean?
I'm assuming she's here.
Yeah.
This is Debbie, which is the...
Garrett, if Rod was here right now, what would you say to him?
I would ask him the question, why? Why, Rod? What is up with all of the occultic symbols? I was part of your ministry for 2 years as a student and as an employee of World Harvest Church. I was briefly your personal assistant for just a matter of months. And I left that place hurt, spiritually hurt, and damaged. And I'm here on your family's cemetery here in Martin County to ask you why. Why does it go on? What are you a part of? It's easy to see the occultic symbolism of Solomon's Temple here that has your signature, your name on it, has the breakthrough cross on it. I'm here beside of Ellen Parsley, where she lays to rest. I'm here on what could be your spot. You're 68 years old now. You just celebrated a birthday. How many more birthdays do you have? Please consider my words. I was damaged there at your ministry. I came into that place on fire for God and left
confused, damaged. I seen parts of you that I didn't ask to see. I seen behavior from you that was very ungodly. I seen methods and a system of business that I can't say was godly. Money was above the word. Money was above the care and attention to making disciples and seeing the love of God and the love of people. Rod, is there something in your family that's from these hills that I'm also from, that has some type of witchcraft, occultic background that you carry even to this day? It's time to let it go. Your days are far spent. And like I stand here with Ellen, maybe in just so many years I can come back to this same spot and I can find you. But it doesn't have to be that way. Your time can be changed. You gotta repent, brother. There's too much that's went on that only you can change, and God will help you, and I pray that you do.
Hearing Garrett utter these words of grace, truth, and love with a quiet strength, it was hard to imagine that a year and a half earlier, Garrett had suffered heart failure that his doctors could not explain, which led to a stroke, which led to the prognosis that he would likely need a pacemaker installed while he was still in his 40s. Debbie Linhart explained in our phone conversation that, yes, will be published at a later date, that absolutely the stress from unresolved spiritual trauma and abuse can be a major contributing factor in this type of health crisis. Garrett got a second opinion, and he is of the opinion that God has given him a second chance at a happy and fulfilling life. The Lord led Garrett to this graveyard a month before he practically drug me there to see the Freemasonry and the narcissism on permanent display as part of Rod's legacy. And it was the Lord who led him to plead with Rod to repent and to reach out to victims, to give their hurt and past trauma to God.
I got just a couple more questions, and I had shown you, I believe I texted you a picture of a couple of tombstones, and we had talked earlier. Ellen Parsley has on her tombstone her death date, or her birth year of 1935, but even though she passed away like 7 years ago now, there's no death year on her tombstone, but there is on her husband's. Have you ever seen that before? And I'll just say, I think Rod Parsley can afford to have somebody etch in, 2018. I don't think money is the issue. If it is, then we'll take an offering for him so he can have that done. But have you seen that before?
I have heard about it being done for a variety of reasons, but I haven't personally witnessed that.
Okay.
I will tell you, though, that some groups that I have talked with and worked with in the past, especially in West Virginia and Kentucky, that was sometimes, I've been told, that was done essentially so that the person remained present with them, even though they were deceased.
And this is something like this belief or this this is something that you've encountered working with groups or individuals from the Kentucky, West Virginia area.
Yes.
So we don't know if that's what's going on, but if that is what's going on, it wouldn't be the first time that you've ever heard of that.
Right.
On the way back from Warfield Cemetery, I still had one person on my call list, and that was my good friend Marianne Ray from Truth Be Told podcast.
Marianne, when we did that episode way back in August of 2024 about the Lester Summerall Freemason sword ceremony, and then you and I did a follow-up with the aerial images of World Harvest Church and all those Masonic shapes. If you remember, I told you even back then, I felt that if we could ever get to Martin County, Kentucky, we get some more information. I gotta tell you, I sent you the picture of the tombstone, but I've been to Warfield, and they got an IGA, and they got a gas station, and I think a Family Dollar. That's about it. But one thing they do have is Warfield has its own Masonic lodge.
Wow. in the middle of nowhere.
Hey, at least they got their priorities straight, right? Well, listen, I got to jump off here in just a minute, but I had to get your reaction to the Parsley Endicott tombstone. What do you make of that?
Well, my first reaction was it looks like a picture of the front of Solomon's temple. But if you connect the dots with what we do know and what we have discovered in terms of the symbology all over the church, on top of the church, from an aerial view within the church with all the swords and the symbolism,
yeah,
clearly to me that just shouts Masonry, Freemasonry, with the columns on the right and the left, and the top of it looks like the capstone or the roof of Solomon's temple.
Right.
It's very creepy to me. And the fact that they chose these columns that smack of masonry and just connecting all these dots, I'm like, something here is dark, really dark.
Yeah, the columns, Garrett pointed out, are like Jachin and Boaz is clearly Masonic, and then the Solomon's Temple. Give me a quick reaction, and then I got to scoot. He's got his breakthrough logo at the top of that tombstone, and then he quotes himself at the bottom. What is that?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. But that right there just speaks of, all the glory to Rod, not God.
On the way down to Prestonburg, I was pretty confident that we would record the interview that would document these bizarre, horrible behaviors by Rod Parsley. And I also mused, if you'll recall, about what could be the things that contribute to these behaviors. And there were three. There was Freemasonry. There was Appalachian superstitious witchcraft. There was generational iniquity. Well, the Freemasonry part, I think that's pretty easy to see. Now, there will be a lot more to say about that in future episodes, but I think we've demonstrated that. As far as the Appalachian superstition, well, there'll be more to say about that as well. But for right now, why isn't there a death date or a death year on Ellen Parsley's tombstone? You heard the words from Debbie Linhart. So is Ellen living on through Rod? And if so, that's a West Virginia, Kentucky, Appalachian phenomenon. Why isn't there a death year on Ellen Parsley's tombstone? And then thirdly, generational iniquity. Well, there's going to be more, unfortunately, that comes out about that. But for now, just do a little research and look into the lawsuit, the sexual harassment lawsuit that was brought by Rod Parsley's aunt, his mother's sister, against Rod Parsley's father. And yes, there will be more. In Acts chapter 19, verse 18, it tells us that many who believed, they were believers, many who believed, came forward and they confessed their deeds. They confessed things that they hadn't dealt with. They confessed their deeds. And many that practiced curious arts, that'd be the occult, that'd be things like Freemasonry, and they brought the books and they burned them. And somebody did a calculation because they said that the value would have been about 50,000 drachmas. Sounds like a lot of money. But here's the principle that you see. You had believers, and this is New Testament, this is Acts chapter 19. You have believers that had not yet renounced these curious deeds and these things of darkness. But when they saw the demonstration and the moving and the power of God and the sons of Sceva and all the rest, they knew they had to. They knew they had to leave the old pagan ways behind and put them under the blood. They had to renounce them to move on in a new life with Christ. So I just want to close by speaking to three different groups or individuals. First of all, Rod, the clock's ticking, brother. The clock is ticking. Now, I don't know if you have all this Freemasonry involvement because you're unaware of it. Certainly, if you've even looked into your history and the surroundings that you talk about, Warfield and Martin County, certainly you would know those influences were there. Or have you made some kind of deal? Do you actively practice Freemasonry? But I've not been able to find any of all the materials that you have where you teach people how to renounce the occultism and the Freemasonry that seems so pervasive in your ministry. The clock is ticking. And Rod, also, the generational iniquity, it's not your fault, the way that you were brought up. But at some point, we have to take responsibility. Maybe you need to go to your daughter and you need to beg her forgiveness for what she's been exposed to. But Rod, I just got to tell you, you recently posted saying, or in a sermon, that you repented to your cousin that you yelled at or spoke to in an unkind manner. Well, that was good, because if that actually happened, you need to. But why haven't you ever asked forgiveness from Garrett May, the one that you repeatedly paraded your nakedness and your exhibitionism in front of? You damaged that young man, but I got good news. He's free, and he's not under the bondage of that anymore. But why haven't you reached out to him? Why haven't you reached out to others that have been similarly damaged? Rod, the clock is ticking. And the second group of people are all the people that'll line up, that'll want to defend this behavior. Here, I got a question for you. Were you and Rod hanging around naked together? Is that why you keep your mouth shut? Or will you really find another reason to defend and justify this type of behavior, which has been well documented? And then finally, to victims. The Lord is purging his church. The Lord is cleansing, I'll say cleansing his temple. What you've been hurt by, what had sometimes a horrific effect on your life. Garrett was lost, locked away in some kind of a prison, mentally and spiritually. Couldn't reconcile his World Harvest experience with his love of God. For 15 years he was in that place. But when he reached out to Jesus, when he called upon the Lord, just like that, he was welcomed back to a God that had never left him. And so, if you're a victim, let it start right now. Do what Debbie said. Reach out, get some help. And you can always email us at ohioforfreedom@gmail.com. You can always call us. We'll probably text back the first time, but we'll take your call, 513-620-5754. So until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio, and God bless the United States of America.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom.